So cooking in general is a little bit difficult for me because sometimes most of the time, I just don't even have the effort to go to all this elaborate work and steps and preparation of all these things and all the time it takes to cook a meal just to eat it and then have less time to go do things that I also want to do. So I've always had a difficult time with like what's the trade-off, or like what's the value of spending all this time on cooking when you could just eat something that's good enough and get back to whatever you wanted to be doing. And so I've been always been dealing with that, and so now I'm a little older. I want to actually try things. My partner is not, to our knowledge, neurodivergent, and so you can't eat the same thing all the time, especially if it's, in some many people's opinions, just boring stuff. So, cooking. How do I approach it? How have I helped myself to find ways to making cooking easier, and in general, just the entire idea of food management? Well, coupling with how much of a nerd I am and this giant server monstrosity behind me, I'm running a service called Mealie, and I'm going to talk to you about it because it's literally been one of the best things for helping me deal with food management, recipes, and how to cook in ways that actually work with my brain, because I find cooking very difficult, especially if I'm like trying a recipe for the first time. And so we've been dealing, my fiance and I have been like putting recipes in Apple Notes and trying to do things from there. But in Mealie, it just works in so many good ways, and I'm going to show you all the things that I've been using it for and how I've been using it, because it's fantastic and it's really made a difference in my life. All right, you deal with executive dysfunction. If you're like me and you have trouble doing things, especially complex things that are new, and just surmounting that obstacle, or like I still sometimes have issues with feeding disorder, where just getting around to feeding myself anything and eating consistently has been an issue. So trying to be more health conscious, and like I weigh my food, I enter it into a food tracker. It's Macro Factor. I've talked about it before. But also just recipes and how to follow a recipe and actually cook something substantial and decent rather than just heat up some whatever's random and eat it. And so doing all this at once, weighing and tracking my food while cooking a recipe, how do you measure and weigh the recipe, and just how does all this work? And it is sometimes a little complex. But at this point, my fiance and I have both gotten into a groove, and we just find it really relatively easy, or at least just, habitual muscle memory. It's normal now, to like go through, weigh things, measure things, and you can, on Macro Factor, you can create recipes. And so you can create a recipe, and you can just select how much of that recipe in grams you just added to your plate, and bam, now you have a good enough estimate of calories. And so while we're watching our intake, we can also do that with the recipes that we make on Mealie. So we can cook things based on instructions on Mealie, enter them based on weights in Macro Factor, and our food is tracked. We can monitor our nutrition and our intake while also following recipes and cooking yummy, delicious things. So let's actually look at Mealie and all the stuff that goes along with that. All right, so this is Mealie. And let me try and zoom in. I always forget to zoom in on these things. Zoom to, let's make it big. All right, so Mealie. Mealie is essentially a glorified cookbook, but obviously it is more than that. So there's a lot of different options, a lot of things that are going on here. You can even see that I've made recipes that are already in here. There is a lot to this, but it's only a lot when you're looking at it for the first time. It's relatively straightforward, and it's super friendly. It's a recipe manager with just some social components too, but also recipe organization and ingredient shopping lists, meal plans, just all the things around food. It makes things easier for me. So if I go through here, you can see recipes is just everything. Recipe finder, I actually don't even remember ever using that. Meal planner. If you have recipes in Mealie that you've already added and you want a meal plan for the week, you can edit your meal plan, add those meals, and it will take all the ingredients that you list in those recipes and add it to a shopping list. And then you can go shopping and get your ingredients for your recipes. As you make food, you can actually, on the recipe itself, say, I made this, and tag it on the date that you did, and then you can even add a picture and comments, so you can see, like, I've made foods, I took pictures, I added it to this, and there you go. It's like a social kind of thing on it, of like a timeline of you making food. So I just call this like my food journey, of like as I try and cook new things and venture and make a foray more so into the realm of cooking. I just put it on this timeline, and it's just like a cool way of looking back at like the adventure of me trying to cook more. And so then there's also something called cookbooks, where you can create a cookbook, which is kind of like just a query that grabs everything that matches a set of criteria. And this just works with like different categories, tools, or tags used on the recipes themselves. Like for instance, I have an Instapot cookbook, and its logic is just the tools section of the recipe must contain the tag Instapot. So if I know it's something that requires an Instapot, bam, it's in this cookbook automatically. That's it. But you can do this for like different cuisines, or like one of the things I'm doing is I have an untried recipes cookbook, because I just add a bunch of stuff to Mealie, and when I get to it, I'll get to it. But in this way, if my fiance and I are like, no, we want to try something new, what do we want to try? And instead of looking at just wall of recipes and then getting like, overwhelmed and the paralysis of choice, I can just look at a filtered view of untried recipes, and I could go from there, and I could even sort and filter even more of just like, well, maybe I'm feeling this type of cuisine, but of my untried recipes, and now I can, narrow it down to exactly what I want to do. And so it's really handy. Organizers, the tags, categories, and tools. And so like categories, I just use that as like the meals, the various meals, or like appetizer, breakfast, dessert, dinner, lunch, side, or snack. Tags are just like general types of I don't know, cuisines, or just whatever, untried things I need to edit, imported recipes, but yeah, cuisines. And then tools are where actually like, you tag like, I need an air fryer for this, I need a Dutch oven for that, I need an Instapot, rice cooker, etc. And so these are the things that will help you like filter down and make cookbooks. And so I have those cookbooks, like I have some untried recipes. Yeah. And so one of the cool things that you can do with this is that you can actually import recipes, because surprisingly, on recipe websites, they all seem to basically follow the same kind of data convention. Like this type of data is actually scrapable in consistent formats, especially in like the back ends of things. Maybe they're all using some sort of plugin or something like WordPress, or I don't know what the heck is going on, but in the back, it's actually all relatively consistent somewhat. So one of the cool things you can do with Mealie is you can grab the URL of a recipe website page, go to Mealie, click create, and import recipe by URL. And apparently you might even be able to do it from images, HTML or JSON, bulk importer, but whatever. Import from URL, and I can paste that URL, and I can create the recipe. It will scan that recipe, which was a Thai sweet chili beef bowl. Bam, photo, description, ingredients, instructions. There's the recipe. And so you can just easily import your recipes, save it, and put it into one place, and then do whatever you want to do. Now, by itself, this doesn't work for me because, for instance, one thing I don't like in recipes, especially like these recipe websites, when I get to it, where is it? Okay, so like when I'm going down in here and I'm like actually following the steps, the actual items themselves in these steps, it's like, okay, now add this, now add this, now add that. In that exact moment in time, I don't know what the measurements are, and then I have to go and scan all the way back up, look at the amounts, and go back down to the instructions, and back and forth and double check and triple check, because I need to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Because if I'm unused to doing this, especially the first time, it can take me an extra hour to work on a recipe just to make sure I'm doing everything correctly, the right measurements, I'm not getting lost. And so it becomes a whole affair, and it becomes very difficult to be on top of a recipe. And then also, sometimes it's like, okay, now you're doing all these things, and then, oh wait, and now add this thing oh, but you actually need to prepare it and like actually chop that onion up or whatever, or it's like in that middle of that stage something is cooking and it's on a timer, and then you need to actually start chopping the onion and then add that to the. What if you don't make it in time and now your things are getting cold or sitting there, or like it's just things are not organized, formatted, or in an order of operations that makes sense to me and how I want to approach the recipe. So what I tend to do is I'll import the recipe and then I'll like actually go in and modify things. And that's why I have that, underscore to edit tag, is that on this particular recipe, what I might do is that I go in and I edit the steps, and I might say, okay, step 1 is if I have to like, chop up, onions at some point, and then also, I don't know, mince the beef with a cleaver or something. Like I'm going to do all of the chopping and the food prep and all of the ingredient prep so that it's all just ready to be added in its proper sequence. I'm going to make my first step, prepare all those ingredients. Like, put them in little bowls, that's fine. I don't care if I dirty a bunch of bowls because I'll clean it all at the end anyways. But organizing things and preparing like that works well with how I want to approach the recipe, and I can just simply add the thing. I know it's the right measurement, and I can weigh the ingredients for my recipes in macro factor, and then by the time I'm ready, I just add it, and it's done. And that way I can actually keep on top of things. And so also what you can do in Mealie is if I actually go to some of my other recipes that I've actually formatted, let me show you a good one, which is going to be one of my favorites lately, my stuffed shells recipe. Also, fun fact, I think you can easily share these recipes to other people. So if anybody wants anything, they see me like going through right here, let me know. But I can go to my favorite recipes, and stuffed shells is one of my favorites. I make it a lot. And let's actually look at the organization. So I have the exact amounts of what I need. I know exactly what I need. And so here are my instructions. And also what I love is that when you're actually looking at this, I can have this up on my phone. I can enter cook mode, which then changes the format. And I can, follow the steps, click on it, and then it marks it green and collapses it. And I can go through the steps. I can also mark that I've done those ingredients, whatever you want. And also what I was trying to say too is these ingredients are actually linked to the steps. So in cook mode, it looks different on mobile as well, but you can see that at these steps, this is when those ingredients and their amounts are used in that step. And so this makes it incredibly easy for me to follow, because then I can just look at, prepare the filling mixture, add the filling ingredients into a mixing bowl, add the cooked meat mixture, and thoroughly mix by gloved hand. Okay, how much, what are the filling ingredients? 16 ounces of good cultured cottage cheese, 2 cups of mozzarella cheese, 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. I don't need to go hunt for it. I just follow the steps. I could clickety-click if I care. Bam, collapse the step, and I can move on in a sequential and linear order through the recipe. And this may be like, dude, why is it so hard for you to just follow a cooking recipe and just cook something? Jeez. I don't know. Take it up with my neurologist. I don't understand. This is what jives with my brain. And by actually, planning ahead what we're going to eat in a week, meal planning, picking recipes, that gives me time to then add the recipe to Mealie, organize it in a way that makes sense to my brain so that when I am trying a new recipe for the very first time, it's not going to be as painful or as difficult, because I've already thought about it, I've already thought it out, I've already organized it, and here I go. I just go enter cook mode and I follow the recipe. And especially once I do it, 1 time, 2 times, it just becomes easier and easier. Like stuffed shells now, I would still need to glance at some details of the recipe, like maybe how long to cook the pasta for, what temperature to preheat the oven to. But other than that, like I could basically follow. I basically have this recipe memorized. And if I open the timeline, I make this thing a lot. Like I've made this recipe a lot. It's good, and these are all pictures of it when I've made it. So that is really how I'm like leveraging Mealie, how I'm using Mealie, and why it is just so fantastic. And then if I really, really like a recipe, I can add it to my favorites, and now it's in a prominent location beyond just like an organized cookbook. And I've also just been getting into baking, so I wanted to bake more bread, and now I actually have a really good rolls recipe that I like, and I've made it like 3 or 4 times, and I actually rather like it, and I've really started to become really, really good friends with my KitchenAid mixer. So this is how I've kind of tackled cooking in a way, and leveraging technology on my server to help me do this. And so when I can add those recipes to meal plans and get the ingredients all listed out in the shopping list, now I don't even have to like manage a shopping list. I don't have to do any complex stuff. It's just, oh, these recipes, add them to a meal plan. There's the ingredients list. Go shop, grab stuff, bring it back, cook mode on a recipe, make the recipe, enter a little timeline, social post, bam, and there I go. Awesome. And that's not even touching on some of the other features of like how you're going to search for recipes based on like some food that you want or what tools are required, which, oh, now that I look at it, that actually is probably what this is about. Like, okay, recipe finder, tools. I want to use the air fryer. Okay. And the foods, I don't know, let's say, actually, I don't know here. Like, what would I add here? I don't know. Well, let's say, okay, I want to see recipes for air fryer. Oh, actually, I guess I do have to actually add some sort of ingredient. So let's just say salmon. Let's see if anything comes up. No, I guess not. Well, let's take out air fryer and let's do oven. Oven. Anything? Anything? Wow. I guess not. Well, I don't have a ton of things in here right now. Yeah. Oh well. But I guess this is how you'd find ingredients, my recipes based on ingredients you have on hand and tools you have available, which is cool. I haven't had to use this, obviously, because I'm like, huh? But this is how I'm handling cooking. And it's actually been incredibly helpful. It's really actually been helpful. Yeah, Mealie's awesome. Check it out. If you want to know more, you can ask me some questions on like Discord or something or whatever. But yeah, cooking. Bye.